Should we not have put Gayton McKenzie at Correctional Services?
Full circle.
I think he will have the right energy. He's got a point to prove. I'm happier he's not anywhere near police. I'm happy he's nowhere near Home Affairs. I think Cyril Ramaphosa from the DA at Basic Education is a big deal.
Anele and the club
on 947.
If you think you're tired, spare a thought for our head of politics here at EWN, Tshidi Madia. This woman has been, where Cyril is, she is right behind him, right behind him.
I was saying to her this morning, I said, how does it feel to be in the final of your World Cup?
Yeah, from interviewing the president with Clement just under a month ago, literally every bit of gossip that is coming from Parliament, the elections, Tshidi Madia is there. And this is why she's here to finally wrap it up. Last night, the cabinet gets announced. I went to bed. I was like, Tshidi's got it.
Woe is me.
I was like, Tshidi's going to let us know what's happening in the morning. But I mean, Tshidi, I like the fact that when you look at something, you always speak to what stands out for you personally as a person. For me, as a 40-year-old, when I see three ministers who are under the age of 40 years old, you have to give it up. I mean, a deputy finance, we've got Ashore, we've got Siviwe at education. We also have Nongeba
Mdauli
in the presidency. Say what you want to say about President Cyril Ramaphosa, but that is a high five, right?
I think so. I think Cyril Ramaphosa from the DA at Basic Education is a big deal. I've watched Siviwe for some time now in Parliament. She's really impressive.
She is.
I think the DA will have a tough time replacing her as chief whip, but what a great appointment. What an energetic individual. Mkhuleko Hlengwa from the IFP. So there's a fair amount of young people in their 30s and their 40s who are taking up key positions. Ronald Lamola, a 40-odd-year-old going to international relations.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. So there are good appointments. Yeah.
And I see on ENCA, Helen Ziller said that the DA is pretty happy with their portfolios that they got.
I imagine that they would be, There was a leaked letter where they're asking for 11 posts, but actually that's just negotiations, right?
That's what Tembekile said last week.
You negotiate high and land somewhere in the middle.
And then you lowball when you make an offer, and again, you land somewhere in the middle. So those leaked letters were really just part of negotiations, and I think that the DA would be happy. 6 positions, but I want to quickly flag that the ANC actually is the big winner for me because they have 59% representation in the GNU cabinet. ANC is a 40% party. So they have managed actually
to
get away, something in that cabinet. And you look at the executive, what's been interesting is some of Ramaphosa's lieutenants, people like Mondli Kungubele, have been retained. Although they are now deputy ministers, so it must be painful somewhat, but they're still there serving in the executive.
What are the murmurs? Around someone like Gwede Mantashe. I didn't think that he was going to get his portfolio again, but he is a chief whip for the ANC. He does a lot of the work, for the party.
Yeah, Gwede's an interesting character because he's kind of always been part of the winning team. If you look at the ANC's politics, from Polokwane and beyond, he's always managed to find himself in the leadership. He's now the chair. But what was always interesting for me is while there's all this loud noise about Gwede externally, that wasn't a factor internally. But he does return, though, with lesser powers than he had before. Gwede spent the past year fighting so hard to keep the energy component of his department. He's lost that. He's now minerals and petrol in essence. He's lost energy to Josienzo Ramkhopa, who's now electricity and energy, because the two need to work together.
It makes sense that those two portfolios are grouped together. And is it a missed opportunity? Should we not have put Gayton McKenzie at Correctional Services?
Full circle.
I really think it's
Can I tell you, his parliamentary picture is in an Adidas tracksuit. I was like, actually, Wena, you're always destined for sports. Look at you. Everyone is in suits but him. So I think Gayton McKenzie is perfectly fine. And I know people say that it shows a lack of seriousness from the president of arts and all issues related to sports.
I disagree with
I don't
that.
agree with them. I don't share that view. I think he will have the right energy. He's got a point to prove. I'm happier he's not anywhere near police. I'm happy he's nowhere near Home Affairs. I think he'll be fine where he is. He's got a cabinet post. He's got a point to prove. Let him do it.
I like that you brought up police because there's likely to be a big change in tone, right? So Bekicele is not coming back to Parliament. Now you've got Senzo Mkhunu moving from water to police. What's that likely to mean?
So by character alone, right, Senzo Mkhunu is very different from Bekicele. Bekicele is a loud hailer. He is quite popular outside urban areas. Well, let's call him a populist. Senzo Mchunu is actually a quiet character. I think he's been celebrated for a lot of the work he's done at water and sanitation. So people are looking forward to seeing what kind of interventions he brings into policing. Bheki Cele also had a problem where he often crossed the line between the policy perspective as a political head versus operational. So he made it difficult for people like Commissioner, what's his name again? Commissioner
Fanny Masemola. No,
Fanny
Masemola.
Masemola.
It was there before.
It is
Ketla
Fanny
Stole as well,
Masemola, yes. And Ketla Stole, if you want to go back, and even the Khomotso Patlanis, he's made it difficult for the police commissioners to exist. So I do think that it might be different where you find police that are functioning slightly better, where the minister is not overbearing and doesn't overshadow the operational aspect of policing.
Listen, 76 ministers announced yesterday by the president. I looked at this and I thought to myself, let's get the work done. And it looks like a cabinet that is going to keep each other accountable and get the work done. Wrap it up. Do you agree with that?
We can only hope. True story. We hope that the politics doesn't get in the way.
Yeah.
The DA, where any opposition that inherits a ministry that was previously NC, will have a point to prove. We'll look for skeletons to prove a point. But I think the bigger story or the bigger task really is to get the country working. And that's what they need to focus on. Bury the internal politics and try and focus on where they want this country to go.
She's at CD_Lee on Twitter. She is our political editor here at Eyewitness News, 702-947 Cape Talk, everybody. And she gets the job done.
Anele and the club
On 947.